The morphine was still fogging the edges of my vision when I realized I couldn't move. My throat was raw, my body felt stitched together like broken glass under skin. The nurse whispered something about rest, about family waiting outside, and I thought, good, my mom's here, I'm safe. But when I finally opened my eyes fully, the chair beside my bed was empty. No coat, no bag, no comforting presence, just the steady beep of machines and the cold light spilling across the floor. That moment became the crack that split everything open. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is my story of betrayal, and if you've ever trusted the wrong person, hit that subscribe button because you are not alone. Here is how it happened. I remember the promise clearly because it wasn't casual. It wasn't a maybe or we'll see. It was, I will be there every minute. I will take care of you. I won't leave. Those words wrapped around me like a blanket when I signed the papers and felt the fear settle in my chest. Surgery is a strange thing. You go to sleep with faith and you wake up exposed. And waking up alone felt like waking up abandoned. A few days earlier, I had noticed something odd in her voice on the phone. Distracted, forced excitement, that fake brightness parents use when they're lying but trying to make it sound like love. I didn't question it, because she was my mom, because betrayal never crosses your mind when trust feels like gravity, constant, taken for granted. When the nurse finally came back in, she looked surprised. "Sweetheart, did your mom step out for coffee?" I swallowed. My voice barely worked. "She said she'd be here when I woke up." The nurse checked the chart, then checked the hallway, then tried to smile like it didn't matter, like the absence wasn't loud. Inside, it felt like the walls pulled farther away from me. Hours passed. Pain throbbed through every nerve. My head spun from anesthesia. I tried to sip water. It burned. And in the silence, the truth started creeping in. She wasn't running late. She wasn't stuck. She wasn't confused about visiting hours. No, she was gone. I reached for my phone with shaking hands. Notifications flooded in, hospital updates, messages from friends, spam emails, and then a picture popped up on my lock screen. A mountain, bright snow, a caption. First day of the ski trip, finally some time for myself, snow. My stomach clenched so hard it hurt worse than the incision. I zoomed in, and there she was, smiling, glasses reflecting sunlight, laughing like winter had kissed her soul, like I didn't even exist. And then I saw the date, the same day as my surgery. I was reading comments on my YouTube videos the other day, and I realized I wasn't the only one. So many people trusted someone with their most vulnerable moment and realized too late that love does not always mean loyalty. But in that hospital bed, I wasn't thinking about lessons or morals. I was thinking, how do you go skiing while your child lies in a hospital bed, unable to walk to the bathroom without help? The doctor asked who would be staying with me at discharge. I lied. I said, my mom, because I was still protecting her, because I was still hoping she'd walk through the door and say, I'm sorry, traffic, bad timing, I didn't mean it. But the hours stretched, night crawled in, the machines hummed like insects. Somewhere in the building, someone cried. Somewhere else, a television laughed. And the empty chair beside my bed stayed empty. That moment became the crack that split everything open. And what happened next made it even darker. Cliffhanger. The first lie I told myself was simple. It's fine. She'll come tomorrow. Denial is soft. It wraps around you like a blanket and whispers, Don't panic yet. Don't make this real. But reality doesn't care how badly you want to stay asleep. The next morning, the nurse wheeled in breakfast, something beige, something tasteless, something meant to keep me alive rather than satisfied. She smiled like she was trying to paste over the emptiness. "Did your mom make it in last night?" I shook my head. Her eyes changed, just a fraction, but I saw it. Pity. And pity hurts worse than pain. I checked my phone again. More ski pictures, more laughing faces, fresh snow, bright gear, captions like, "You deserve this. So glad you finally took time for yourself." People cheering, people encouraging. Nobody knew. Nobody saw what the celebration cost. I scrolled until my incision throbbed from the tension, and then I clicked on our last text thread. Me. "I'm scared. Will you be there when I wake up?" Mom. "Of course. Stop worrying. Just focus on getting better." No hesitation, no doubt, just a promise abandoned as casually as a grocery list. By noon, physical therapy arrived. A woman with strong hands and gentle eyes explained what we'd need to do. "We're going to stand," she said. The word sounded violent. She helped swing my legs over the bed. Every movement sent lightning through my body. My ribs tightened. The room tilted. I gripped the walker. My palms sweated. My breath shook. "Where's your support person?" she asked, like it was normal, like everyone had one. I swallowed. She had to leave. There was a silence where judgment wanted to live, but she swallowed it down. "Okay," she said quietly, "then I'll be your support person right now." We stood an inch, then another. Then pain swallowed everything. I cried. Not loud, just broken. Not because standing hurt, but because strangers were holding me up where my own mother refused to. Later, the doctor came in with discharge papers. "We can send you home tomorrow. You'll need someone to stay with you for at least the first 72 hours. Lifting, meds, monitoring, mobility, no stairs alone, no showering unattended. Who do you have?" The answer lodged in my throat. Who did I have? My mind raced through options. Friends, busy. Neighbors, barely knew me. Family, complicated. Mom, skiing. I heard myself say, "My mom will be here." The lie tasted metallic. Because here's the truth nobody wants to admit. Sometimes we lie to protect the people who hurt us because admitting the truth means admitting we weren't worth staying for. That night, the loneliness shifted. It stopped being fear and became anger. Not the screaming kind, the quiet, calculated kind. I replayed every memory, the time she'd forgotten birthdays, downplayed accomplishments, twisted guilt like a knife. Suddenly, the pattern snapped into focus. It was never about what I needed. It was always about what was convenient for her. And this time, the cost was my body, my safety, my recovery. So I made a decision. I stopped calling, stopped checking, stopped waiting for her to walk through that hospital door like some savior in a dramatic movie scene. No more imaginary apologies, no more maybe tomorrow. If she wanted to disappear, I would let her. And that decision set off a chain of events I never expected. Because the next morning, the nurse came in with a strange look on her face and said, "Your mom just called the hospital," and what she said changed everything. When the nurse said my mom had called, my heart did something pathetic. It lifted. Hope is stubborn like that. Even when you know better, it still crawls up from the ashes and whispers, maybe she came back, maybe she realized, maybe she cares. The nurse adjusted the IV, trying to act neutral. She wanted to verify your discharge time, she said. My eyebrows tightened. She's coming? The nurse hesitated. Well, she wanted to know if she could pick up your paperwork early because they're trying to make it to dinner reservations tonight. Dinner reservations. I stared at her. Ski trip, vacation, dinner reservations. Not post-op instructions, not medication schedule, not how to help me sit up without ripping stitches. Reservations. The nurse watched my face carefully, as if she were measuring the damage. She also asked, she continued gently, if the hospital staff could handle most of it so she didn't have to stay. My throat went dry. It wasn't just absence anymore. It was convenience, calculation, strategy. I felt something close off inside me, like a door slamming. Tell her no, I said quietly. The nurse blinked. Tell her she doesn't need to come. She studied me for a long moment, making sure I wasn't reacting impulsively out of hurt or anesthesia fog. Are you sure? She asked. I nodded, because in that instant, a truth crystallized. If the only reason someone shows up because it's easy, they're not showing up for you, they're showing up for appearance, and I was done being an accessory. Still, the logistics remained. I had nobody to take me home, nobody to monitor meds, nobody to sit through the night making sure I didn't stop breathing or fall or bleed through the bandages. The hospital sent in a social worker. She sat down in the chair that had stayed empty for days, the one meant for my mom, and opened a folder. Okay, she said calmly, we're going to build a plan. Her voice carried the steadiness of someone who had seen too many abandoned people try to act strong. She didn't rush, she didn't pry, she just asked questions. Any close friends? No. Coworkers? Not close enough. Church? Community? Not really. She tapped her pen thoughtfully, then said something that struck deeper than she probably intended. You're not the first person whose family chose vacation over responsibility. That sentence split me open, because what happened to me wasn't rare. It wasn't unique. It wasn't even shocking to her. It was common. And that hurt in a different way, like realizing Betrayal had an entire demographic. We arranged for temporary care, a visiting nurse, a medical transport ride, follow-ups through home health. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't comfortable, but it was safe. Later that afternoon, my phone buzzed. Mom. The message lit the screen. Hey, I called the hospital. Sounds like everything is handled, heart. We'll come by once we're back and things settle down. Proud of you for being strong. Strong. That word burned. Strong was never a compliment from her. Strong meant I didn't have to rearrange anything. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. 1,000 responses surged up, angry ones, sarcastic ones, desperate ones. I erased them all. I typed, "Got it," and hit send. Silence. No apology, no guilt, no acknowledgement. Just another photo later that night, wine glasses, a fire pit, her face lit by orange glow, radiating satisfaction. Meanwhile, my discharge day arrived. Medical transport rolled me out through sliding glass doors. Cold air sliced across my face. Cars moved, people rushed. Life continued, like the world didn't care that my insides felt stitched together by betrayal rather than sutures. At home, everything felt different. The couch looked too low, the bed too high, the bathroom too far. Every small movement became a negotiation. The visiting nurse showed me how to take pills with food, how to track pain, how to breathe through the sharp spikes without panicking. But nights were something else.
Nights were the dark hours where machines didn't hum and staff didn't check in and hallways didn't glow. Nights were where the quiet spoke. That's when my brain replayed everything. Childhood moments I didn't question then, but suddenly made sense now. The vacations she took while I stayed with relatives, the emergencies every time I needed help, the subtle reminders that her life mattered more. I had called it independence. I had labeled it not wanting to burden her. Truth? I had been conditioned not to expect care, and surgery finally exposed that truth with surgical lighting. On day 3, I got another text. "Hey, just checking if you're okay. We extended our trip. Snow is amazing. We'll call when we're driving back." Extended? They extended the trip. I stared at the message, not even angry this time, just numb, the kind of numb that settles when shock evaporates and clarity walks in. I realized something brutal. She didn't feel guilty. She didn't feel conflicted. In her world, she had earned this break. In her world, my pain was an inconvenience she delegated to professionals. And love, in her vocabulary, meant saying, "Proud of you," instead of showing up. The visiting nurse noticed my expression as she packed her bag. "You're grieving," she said softly. "Grieving what?" I asked. She met my eyes. "The mother you thought you had." Her words hit like truth hits, quietly and then all at once. I wasn't angry at the real woman on that mountain. I was devastated over the imaginary version I had been loyal to my whole life. And grieving changes something fundamental in you. You stop begging, you stop chasing, you stop performing worthiness. Instead, you start rebuilding, slowly, painfully, but honestly. So I began writing, not for YouTube yet, not for anyone, just journals, notes, fragments of raw sentences about pain and promises and chairs left empty beside hospital beds. Somewhere in that writing, a new thought appeared, hesitant, fragile. What if I never let anyone treat me like that again? What if recovery wasn't just surgery, but finally choosing myself? Days blurred. My strength returned in inches, not miles. I learned how to sit up differently, how to shower safely, how to breathe through the sharp spikes without panicking. But beneath the healing, another storm was gathering, because eventually the trip ended. Eventually there would be a knock, a voice, a conversation, and my mom, the woman who chose snow and dinners and selfies over her child, was going to walk through my door as if nothing had happened. And I had to decide, stay silent or finally say everything. The moment she arrived changed the trajectory of our relationship forever.
The day she finally showed up, the house smelled like disinfectant and fear. I'd cleaned as best I could, slowly, carefully, with pauses when my vision blurred, not because I wanted to impress her, but because I didn't want to hear that tone. You know the one. The, "Wow, things are a little chaotic, aren't they?" tone. A car door slammed outside. My heart tightened, not from excitement, but from bracing. The knock came, light, cheerful, rhythmic, like she was showing up for coffee instead of walking into the aftermath of abandonment. I opened the door. She breezed in with sunglasses on her head, cheeks flushed from winter air, hair perfect. She carried a gift bag with tissue paper exploding out of it like confetti. "Look at you," she exclaimed. "You're up and moving. See? I knew you'd be fine." Those words, "I knew you'd be fine," sliced deeper than any incision. Because embedded inside them was the confession she would never say directly. "I calculated your pain. I weighed it against my fun, and I decided you wouldn't die, so it was safe to leave." She hugged me, careful not to touch the surgical area, not out of sensitivity, but because she didn't want to feel it, didn't want to confront the reality she had abandoned. She handed me the gift. Inside, a fuzzy blanket, a candle, a card with a cartoon sunflower. The card said, "To my strong, resilient kid, I knew you'd handle it like a champ. Proud of you. Heart." Compliments as camouflage, pride as anesthesia. We sat. She talked. Oh, she talked about the snow conditions, the resort spa, the restaurants, the couple they met from Denmark, how she almost sprained her ankle. Can you imagine? I would have been useless, she laughed. I listened, quiet, something building in my chest, like pressure before a storm. Eventually, she said, "So, tell me everything. How did the surgery go?" Silence formed between us like glass. I looked at her. Not at the surface, not at the practiced smile, but deeper, at the woman who had always chosen convenience, at the human being behind the role I had been worshiping. "It was hard," I said slowly. She blinked, briefly, then recovered. "Oh, sweetie, you know how chaotic everything was. Flights, reservations, timing. It was just bad luck." Bad luck. Like abandonment was weather, like it simply happened, not something she orchestrated. "I was scared. I couldn't move. I thought you were in the waiting room." She sighed, that impatient exhale that meant we're not doing this right now. "I didn't think it would be such a big deal," she said. "You're not a child anymore. The nurses were there. Doctors are trained for this. You're overthinking." Overthinking. That word, my whole childhood contained inside it. Every time I had needs, overreacting. Every time I asked for comfort, too sensitive. Every time I spoke truth, drama. But this time, something wouldn't fold. "I needed you," I said quietly. She stiffened. Needing her meant responsibility. Responsibility meant guilt. Guilt meant acknowledging failure, and she had built her whole identity on avoiding that feeling. "I came afterward, didn't I?" she snapped. "I texted, I checked in. You act like I vanished." I pictured the ski slopes, the dinners, the selfies, the extensions to the trip. The call to the hospital, not to see if I was okay, but to see how little she could do. "You did vanish," I said. Her eyes flashed. There it was, the shift, the pivot from innocent to injured martyr. "I can't believe this," she said, shaking her head. "After everything I've done for you in life, one trip, and suddenly I'm the villain?" She stood, pacing, rearranging her outrage like furniture. "This was important for me," she continued. "I never get to relax. I needed a break. You're an adult now. You should be able to handle things without clinging to me." Clinging, as if requesting basic presence was emotional weakness. Anger didn't explode this time. It settled, calm, clear. "I'm not saying you couldn't go," I said slowly. "I'm saying you should have chosen differently, or postponed, or at least stayed until I woke up. You promised." She froze at the word, promise. Promises are mirrors. They show who someone truly is when tested. She didn't like that reflection. "Well," she said, voice cold now, "maybe I shouldn't promise anything anymore. It's obviously never enough for you." The words landed like a door slamming. I saw it, the deeper truth. She didn't want to feel accountable. She didn't want love that required effort. She didn't want motherhood when it wasn't applause-worthy. I breathed slowly. "Then don't promise," I said, "but don't pretend. Don't tell me I'm overreacting. Don't rewrite it." Her expression hardened. "So this is what it is now?" she said. "You're going to sit there making me the bad guy after I came all this way to visit?" Visit, like I was a tour stop. I felt the last thread snap. "This isn't about making you the bad guy," I replied. "This is about telling the truth. You left. You chose a ski trip over helping me recover from surgery. That hurt, and I'm not going to pretend it didn't."
Silence, the kind that exposes. She swallowed, eyes narrowing like she was evaluating whether apology or defensiveness would serve her better. She chose the familiar path. "You think you need therapy," she said. "You're clearly carrying unresolved issues." I almost laughed, not cruelly, but with a kind of exhausted clarity. "I am getting therapy," I said, "and therapy is why I'm finally able to say this out loud." Her face closed, walls went up, drawbridge lifted. "Maybe I should go," she said flatly. Maybe, but she was already halfway to the door. She gathered her purse, lifted the gift bag remains, smoothed her jacket, like tidying the scene of a crime. At the doorway, she paused. "I hope you figure out whatever this is, because I'm not going to be your punching bag." And then she left. No hug, no apology, no acknowledgement of the wound she had carved open. The door clicked shut. And strangely, instead of collapsing, I felt something else. Relief. Not because I'd lost my mother, but because I had finally stopped losing myself. That night I opened my laptop. I didn't write a video. I didn't write revenge. I wrote the truth, the raw, unfiltered reality of how abandonment hides inside families, wrapped in pretty language and denial. And I realized my story wasn't about surgery anymore. It was about patterns, boundaries, recovery beyond the body. That life has a way of throwing unexpected tests at you just when you think you found your footing, because a week later, she called again. And this time, what she wanted wasn't forgiveness. It was something bigger and far more dangerous.
Her number lit up my phone on a gray morning. I hesitated. It's strange how the body remembers before the mind does. My chest tightened, my stomach braced. Somewhere deep inside, a younger version of me whispered, "Be careful." I answered anyway. "Hi." Her voice came through bright, not apologetic, not heavy, almost rehearsed. "Hey, I've been thinking," she began, like we were picking up a casual conversation. "I wanted to talk about everything." For a flicker of a second, I thought maybe this was it. Maybe accountability, maybe healing. "Okay," I said quietly. There was a pause, the kind someone takes right before steering the conversation where they've already decided it's going to go. "So I talked to a few people, friends, family, and honestly, they all said the same thing. You're being really harsh about this." There it was. Not, "I'm sorry," not, "I understand," but, "Other people think you're wrong." She kept going. "They said you're old enough to handle surgery, that hospitals have staff, that you should be grateful everything went well." Grateful. As if gratitude could erase the ache of waking up alone. "And," she added cautiously, "they think maybe your therapist is putting ideas in your head, making you feel victimized." I closed my eyes. She wasn't calling to repair anything. She was calling to recruit me back into silence, to gaslight the wound, to reframe abandonment as overreaction. "What do you want from me?" I asked. She took a breath. "I want us to move on. I don't want this narrative floating around. If people hear that I left you during surgery, it makes me look like a terrible mother, and that's not fair." There it was, the core. Not my pain, not my recovery, not the lonely hospital nights. Her image, her reputation, her version of the story. "So," she continued gently, "I'm asking you, if this comes up or if you talk about it anywhere, please make sure you say you insisted I go, that you told me it was fine, that you didn't need me." My fingers went cold around the phone. She was asking me to rewrite reality, to protect her at the cost of my truth, to lie, not just outwardly, but inwardly to myself. I didn't insist. You chose to go. She laughed, short, dismissive. You know that's not how it happened. You said you didn't want to feel like a burden. I swallowed. I said that after you'd already booked everything and after you promised you'd still be there. Another pause, sharper this time. Okay, she said tightly. Maybe details are fuzzy. The point is, families keep things private. We don't air our dirty laundry. We don't dramatize situations. There was that word again, dramatize, as if truth only counts when it's convenient. I'm not trying to expose you. I'm trying to process what happened. I'm allowed to talk about my life. She clicked her tongue, irritation rising. You're allowed, sure, but actions have consequences. If you tell people this version of the story, it could damage relationships. People might judge me unfairly. I have friends, a community, a reputation. I stared at the wall. I realized with a quiet sadness that I had never really been her child. I had been part of her brand, her image management strategy, and now I was a liability. I'm not lying, I said steady now, not for you, not anymore. The silence stretched, dangerous, icy. Then her tone changed, gentler, the way it always did when manipulation walked into the room wearing soft slippers. Sweetheart, listen, I love you. I've done so much for you. I raised you. I sacrificed. Sometimes I made mistakes, but everything I did was with good intentions. Do you really want one misunderstanding to define me? Guilt settled like fog. Because she was good at this, turning responsibility into pity, turning boundaries into cruelty. I'm not trying to define you. I'm trying to process what happened. She sighed, long, heavy. I guess I didn't realize how ungrateful you'd become. Ungrateful. There it was, the trap card. The idea that love must be paid back with silence. I'm not ungrateful. I'm hurt. She didn't hear it, or refused to. Well, she said coolly, if you're going to insist on telling people this distorted version, then maybe we need a little space. I can't have negativity around me right now. I'm focusing on my wellness. Her wellness. My pain and inconvenience. My boundary, negativity. It clicked fully this time. Love without accountability is control dressed up as affection. Maybe space is good, I said. I meant it, not as punishment, not as revenge, but as survival. She reacted like I'd slapped her. Oh, wow, so you're really doing this? I'm choosing peace, for once. She exhaled sharply. Fine, do whatever you want. Just remember, you pushed me away, not the other way around. The line went dead, and I sat there, phone still in my hand, heart racing, letting the words echo. You pushed me away. The rewrite had already begun. But something unexpected happened inside me. I didn't crumble. I didn't question myself. I didn't reach for her to pull me back into the familiar storm. Instead, I felt grounded, because clarity, even when painful, is stabilizing. In the weeks that followed, recovery continued, slow but steady. The visiting nurse discharged me, the pain lessened, sleep returned, movement became less terrifying. But emotionally, I was stepping into brand new territory. I started talking, carefully, honestly, to people I trusted, not to villainize her, not to build an army, but to stop isolating myself inside silence. Every time I spoke, the shame loosened its grip. And one night, while scrolling through comments on one of my older videos, stories about family, healing, boundaries,
I stumbled across people sharing similar experiences, different surgeries, different betrayals, same loneliness. I realized this wasn't just my story. This was a story about generational patterns, about parents raised on survival who never learned accountability, and children taught to normalize neglect. I opened a blank document, and for the first time, I considered telling it publicly. Not for attention, not for revenge, but for connection, for anyone who had ever woken up alone and wondered if they deserved it. But before I could decide, a message appeared. From her. Short. Chilling. We need to talk. Something has happened. And the thing that happened would force me to confront everything again in a way I never expected.
Her message landed like ice water. We need to talk. Something has happened. Old me would have called immediately, heart racing, body on alert, ready to drop everything and rescue her emotional state. But I wasn't the same anymore. So I took a breath. Then I replied, "What happened?" The typing dots blinked, disappeared, blinked again. Finally, "Can you come over? I don't want to explain this over text." A small, familiar panic tugged at me, that instinct that says, if you don't go right now, something catastrophic will happen. But another voice rose up, calmer, clearer. Your body is still healing. Your boundaries matter too. I can't drive long yet. Tell me first. A few minutes passed. Then, it's about money. Money. Not health. Not life or death. Not tragedy. Money. Something inside me, that little child still hoping, deflated. Still, I agreed to a video call. She appeared on screen looking tight, anxious, but not devastated, more cornered. Her background wasn't chaotic, no emergency, no hospital, just her living room, spotless as always. "I didn't want to bother you," she started, the soft, apologetic tone she used when she was about to ask something significant. "But I'm in a situation." I waited. She sighed dramatically. "So, the ski trip was more expensive than we expected, and the car needed repairs on the way back. Then the heater went out. Everything hit at once." I listened, not judging, not rescuing. "Okay, that sounds stressful." She nodded quickly, like she needed the validation to move to the real point. "I've been thinking, since you've been recovering, you haven't been working much, but you did get that insurance check from the surgery, right? The reimbursement?" Ah, there it was. Not help, not reconciliation. Access. She leaned forward. "I thought, maybe temporarily, you could lend me some, just a few thousand. I'll pay you back when taxes come in." My heart slowed. In the past, I would have said yes immediately, out of loyalty, fear, obligation, that unspoken rule that children exist to support parents emotionally, financially, spiritually, even at their own expense. But something in me resisted. I thought about the empty hospital chair, the extended ski trip, the request to lie for her, and now a hand reaching for my recovery funds. I need that for medical bills, follow-ups, therapy, meds. She waved a dismissive hand. "Oh, please, you'll be fine. Doctors overcharge. Besides, you're young. You can make more. I'm older. I don't have the same options." Her voice tightened, sliding into familiar guilt. "After everything I've done for you, you can't help me this once?" I swallowed. "This isn't once," I said softly. "It's a pattern." Her eyebrows shot up, offended. "A pattern? Excuse me?" I breathed in slow, steady air.
You asked me to lie about the surgery. You minimized what happened. You blamed me for being hurt. And now you want my recovery money. That's not support. That's using me." Her expression hardened into something cold. "You are unbelievable," she snapped. "You've become selfish. Therapy has poisoned your mind. Family helps each other." Family shows up. Family doesn't disappear when it's inconvenient. Silence. Then, "I wasn't disappearing. I was living my life, and if you loved me, you'd want me to be happy." There it was, the twisted equation. Her happiness greater than my safety, her comfort greater than my truth, her desires greater than my needs. "I do want you happy, but not at the cost of myself." Her lips tightened. "So that's your answer? You're refusing?" I nodded. "Yes." There was a flash, not sadness, not hurt, but insult. "You're punishing me," she said. "You're making me pay for my surgery drama." "I'm setting boundaries," I replied. "That's not punishment, that's self-respect." The word landed like an accusation. Self-respect. Because self-respect means the spell breaks. Self-respect means she doesn't get to rewrite everything. Her tone dropped quieter, more dangerous. "If this is how it's going to be, then don't come to me when you need help in the future." A chill spread through my chest. Old me would have begged, cried, backtracked, but now I simply said, "I already needed you." And she had not come. Her eyes darted away, not out of guilt, but out of irritation. "This conversation is exhausting. I can't handle your negativity right now. Call me when you're ready to be reasonable." Then she ended the call. Just like that. Click. Gone. I sat there staring at the blank screen, pulse steady, emotion swirling, guilt, yes, but also something surprisingly strong underneath. Stability. Because choosing myself didn't feel selfish. It felt honest. Days passed. She didn't call. No checking in, no apology, no curiosity about my healing. Silence, the kind used as punishment. But instead of collapsing, I leaned into my recovery routine. I walked a little farther, cooked simple meals, journaled, breathed. And I kept writing. Not to attack, to process. One evening, my cursor hovered over the upload button. Not a rant, not an exposé, just a story. Stripped down, vulnerable, unnamed, universal, about waking up alone after surgery, about betrayal, about boundaries. I hesitated because telling your truth when someone has spent their life controlling the narrative is terrifying. But I thought about the empty hospital chair, the visiting nurse, the countless people in my comments saying, "I went through this too." And I clicked. Publish. Not once did I mention her name. Not once did I accuse. I simply shared my perspective, my heart, my experience. I went to sleep unsure how it would land. By morning, hundreds of comments, thousands of views, people writing, "This was my mom. This was my dad. I thought I was crazy. Thank you for saying it out loud." And for the first time since surgery, maybe the first time in my life, I didn't feel alone. But then, a new comment appeared. Her profile picture, her name, and what she wrote wasn't just defensive, it was nuclear.
The snow outside looked unreal, perfect, glittering, untouched, while everything inside me felt torn, messy, bruised. I sat across from my mom at the kitchen table, the hospital discharge papers still folded in my pocket like a secret weapon. My leg throbbed, but the anger burned hotter. She tried to smile like we could just reset the world. "So, she said softly. "Tell me how you're feeling today." I studied her, the woman who raised me, the woman who swore she'd always be there, and the woman who wasn't. "I'm feeling," I said slowly, "like I finally see you clearly." Her expression faltered. My heart was beating so hard it echoed in my ears, louder than the fridge hum, louder than the dog nails on the floor, louder than the storm inside me. I had rehearsed this conversation all night, rewriting sentences in my head until the words felt sharp enough to cut. "I needed you," I said, "and you left." She looked down, her throat tightening. "I told you it was already planned. Your aunt, the flights." "Stop." The word came out steadier than I expected. Her eyes snapped up, surprised. "You didn't have to go," I continued. "You chose to go." Silence spread out between us, thick, stretching, painful. Memories collided in my head like broken glass. Her voice when she promised she'd stay. My own voice saying, "Okay, I feel safer now." The empty house, the dizziness, the way the world blurred when I realized I was alone. I didn't just need help with the meds. I needed a mom. She swallowed, blinking too fast. "I thought you were strong enough." I let out a hollow laugh. "That's the problem. You always think strength means I don't need anyone." She closed her eyes like the words physically hit her. I felt my hands shaking, but I didn't stop. "You tell people you raised this independent, resilient kid. You love that story, don't you?" I said. "But independent doesn't mean invisible, and resilient doesn't mean disposable." She rubbed her temples. "I didn't mean for you to feel abandoned, but I did." The room felt colder. My leg pulsed. The clock ticked louder. "I was vomiting in the sink." My voice cracked despite everything I tried to hold back. "I was dizzy, bleeding, terrified I'd fall. I called, no one answered. I texted, nothing. Do you know what that feels like?" Tears finally spilled over her lashes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. And I believed she was sorry, but it didn't undo anything. Sorry didn't unlock doors that should never have been closed. I kept reading the comments on my YouTube videos, people talking about parents showing up or not showing up, and I realized I'm not crazy. I'm not dramatic. I just expected the bare minimum. Her chin trembled. "I thought the ski trip would be healing for me. I thought I deserved a break." I stared at her, stunned. There it was. Not malice, not cruelty, just selfishness dressed up as self-care. "You deserved a break," I repeated quietly, "so you took mine." She winced. A part of me wanted to walk away. Another part wanted to scream. Instead, I breathed in and chose truth. "I'm done pretending," I said. "I'm done shrinking so you don't feel guilty. I'm done accepting the version of love where I come last." Her shoulders sagged. "So what does that mean?" The air tightened. It meant something seismic, something irreversible. "I'm creating distance, not to punish you, to protect me." Her face flushed with hurt. "You're cutting me out?" "I'm choosing boundaries for the first time in my life." Her voice broke. "But I'm your mother." I nodded. "And that should have meant I didn't have to ask you to stay." She covered her mouth as if the truth was too loud. For a second, I almost softened again. The child inside me begged, "Don't do this. Don't lose your mom." But the adult inside whispered back, "You already did the day she walked away." I stood, slowly, carefully, gripping the table for balance.
I forgive you, I said. But forgiveness isn't a reset button. It's just honesty without revenge. Her tears streamed freely now. Then I added the words that felt both terrifying and freeing. You don't get to be the hero in my story anymore. The room went silent. The heater clicked on. Somewhere outside, a car door slammed. My heart slowed in my chest, not calm exactly, but grounded. She opened her mouth to speak, to plead, to argue, to rewrite history. But my phone buzzed. A notification. One short message. And when I saw who it was from, my breath caught in my throat. Because the truth I was about to learn, it changed everything I thought I knew about that night, and about who actually abandoned me, and why. And in that split second, I realized the betrayal ran much deeper than my mom, and someone else was hiding the biggest secret of all.
The message lit up my screen like a flare in the dark. Just one name: my brother. We hadn't talked much since the surgery, mostly surface-level stuff, memes, quick check-ins, but this text wasn't casual. We need to talk. I didn't think she'd actually go. My pulse tightened. The room blurred. I excused myself and stepped outside, cold air rushing into my lungs like the world wanted to shock me awake. I called him. He answered on the first ring. His voice sounded wrecked, flat, guilty, like something heavy had been sitting on his chest too long. He said, "I tried. I told Mom she shouldn't go. I told her you'd need help the first few days." I leaned against the railing, leg aching. "So why didn't you say anything sooner?" I asked. Because that was the part that hurt. Not just that people failed me, but that they stayed quiet about it. He sighed. "She told me not to interfere, said you'd figure it out, said if we kept stepping in every time, you'd never learn to be independent." The words sliced through me. Not an accident, not miscommunication, a philosophy. I closed my eyes, breathing slowly, letting it land, grief and clarity braided together. "I thought she was staying," he added, voice cracking. "We argued. I even offered to come stay with you. She shut it down." And there it was, the other layer of betrayal. Not only did she leave, she actively prevented help. I didn't feel anger then. I felt something quieter, something colder. Recognition. This wasn't about one ski trip. It was a pattern disguised as parenting, self-reliance framed as love, neglect disguised as strength training. I thanked him. We sat in silence a moment. Then he said the thing that shattered the last illusion. "She thinks love is preparing people to survive without her. She doesn't understand she's teaching people not to expect her." The truth rang. Not cruel, not malicious, just broken, passed down from someone who probably abandoned her too. I hung up and stood there, watching my breath in the winter air, realizing something heavy, but freeing. I could never make her become the mother I needed, and she could never make me accept less than I deserved. I walked back inside. She looked up, eyes red, hands knotted together. There was so much I could say. But instead, I spoke gently. "I know now. You didn't leave because I was strong. You left because you didn't know how to stay." Her lips trembled. "And I don't hate you. I just refuse to build my life around the hope that you'll change." The words weren't a punch. They were a release. For both of us. Her shoulders sagged, like she finally realized there was no version of this where we rewrote the past or made it pretty. She whispered, "I am sorry. I don't know how to fix it." "You don't, but I do." She frowned. "How?" And this was the part I hadn't fully understood until that moment. "I fix it," she said, "by learning to choose myself sooner than you didn't. Not revenge, not punishment. Boundaries. Better friendships. Chosen family. People who show up not because it's convenient, but because love requires presence." My recovery took longer than expected. Physically, yeah, but emotionally most of all. And somewhere in that long, painful stretch, I stopped asking, why didn't they love me right? And started asking, why did I believe I had to settle for that version of love? That's the real surgery I went through. Not just on my body, but on my story. And if you're listening to this, maybe shaking your head because it feels familiar, here's what I want you to take with you. You deserve people who stay. You deserve care that doesn't require begging. And if the people you counted on disappear, you get to choose differently next time. Not bitter, just wiser. Because sometimes betrayal isn't the end of the story. Sometimes it's the beginning of finally choosing yourself.